of MAG Institute of Design and Architecture Swarnabhumi, we welcome you all for the MIDAS webinar series 33 titled Geo-Design in Landscape Architecture by architect Asif Ali Risuddin, Masters in Landscape Architecture, working in Plan and Brutal, Chemnitz, Germany. Now, I request our beloved principal MIDAS, Professor Pariskar Rajan, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Rashmi. Very good afternoon to one and all gathered here on this interesting webinar. It's really close to my heart because I'm also part of the geodesign team, and I know how geodesign helps in making the design and planning possible with the help of making that design proposal through simulations, informed decisions, and how understanding the geographical context and the land use context of the particular city. And today with us we have landscape architect Asif Ali, who has a great experience on geodesign. And geodesign is one collaborative way of working on design. And definitely he'll be giving us a lot of insight on this particular aspect of or the technique of geodesign, and especially its application in landscape architecture, which is the trend now in the form of digital landscape architecture, where there is a department of DLA that's called Digital Landscape Architecture in Harvard, GST. So with this few words, once again, I welcome you all to this interesting subject of geodesign and how best we can learn this technique from our expert today for this webinar. I welcome Asif to take over the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now, I request Assistant Professor India for the guest introduction.
Yeah, you are audible, I think.
Good evening, everyone. I welcome Architect Asif Ali for this informative webinar on geodesign and landscape architecture, especially in MIDAS. He got graduated from Periyar Maniammai as an eminent architect. On the flow of his practice as an architect, he took his inspiration in landscape architecture and terrains, graduated from Bahar Desa as an esteemed landscape architect, working now as a planner as well as architect in Germany. Apart from his regular and project is Armenia, National Universities of Armenia, a result of security, conservation, and state treatment under the guidance of Thesis from Harvard University, USA, and University of California. Apart from his professional background, he is also a down-to-earth person and a very caring as well as guiding person as a good eminent senior as well. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
With myself, okay. Am I audible and everyone can see me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Without wasting any time, I feel I want to say some quick words. I want to thank the professors, the students of the MIDAS and INEA for organizing this. And I feel it's going to be mutual. It's not just I say everything and you need to listen everything. It's a mutual interaction. So I want to share whatever I know from my side. And I hope you have many takeaways from this presentation, and I hope you get to use some techniques in your architecture design, or in future, if you want to become a landscape architect, you could also use it. Okay, so once again, can you all see my screen? Like, okay, I will start. Okay, this is the before we go into the geodesign topic. Any design, the common mistake we as students do is we usually directly go into the solution. Like we directly jump into the final stage of the design process. Any design has three stages. First is analysis, second is evaluation, and third is uh, design, the final design. So geodesign is a culmination of the information technologies, design professions, geographic sciences, and the people of the place. What is information technology is the softwares and the hardwares, software what we use. It can be AutoCAD or GIS or whatever. And the design professions, as Inia told, I have been collaborated with a lot of design professionals. They may be landscape architects or paleobotanists or which whatever. Is it audible?
So your
Everything going
screen
good?
is visible but not the presentation.
Sorry, you can't see
Yes,
my screen.
your screen is visible, sir, but not the presentation.
You could see an image or what you're seeing, just a blank screen.
No, the folder is visible now. Only the folder is visible.
Ah, okay, okay.
You can unshare and share it.
Share and share content. Uh, mhm. Now, okay, now,
Yeah, yes, sir. We can
Yeah,
see
it
that.
is visible now.
okay. So, yeah, yeah, we were talking about the. Now, can you see an image?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah. Okay. So I go on a little bit quicker. So this is what geodesign is all about. Geodesign is a collaboration between the people of the place and whatever the science or the knowledge you have, and the design professions. Professions means you get to collaborate with the paleobotanists, landscape architects, and it depends on your problem or the what you are going to find. And the softwares, you could use AutoCAD, GIS, any kind of software which is convenient for you, or even a sketch is fine. And geodesign is had three stages. One is analysis, evaluation, and design. So before you start any design, you need to ask some basic questions like, for who are you doing it, and why are you doing it, and how are you doing it. So why, how, and who are three important questions before you do any design. I hope everyone is aware of it. So here I went to Armenia. I collaborated with the UN, and I collaborated with the national universities in Armenia. I got to use the technology from US, from professors Carl Steinitz and from the Harvard, and I did some for the visual impact assessment. I got help from the University of California, from James Palma, Professor James Palma, and paleobotanists. I get to go to the National Botanical Institute of Armenia to get the information about their plants in the region. So here, if you can get a site in the future, for example, like Big Temple or Senji, Fort in the Senji, or you take whichever site you want in the future. So the takeaway from this presentation is I am going to share some of the techniques, what I use to arrive at a cumulative, wholesome approach for the design process, or for the solution. I followed a few techniques, which I am going to share with you. So with that, we will get inside the presentation. So I always love Louis Kahn. Whichever presentation is it, I start always with him as his first slide. I love his words. I love beginnings. So Louis Kahn is like, for me, everything. And this is the process. So in case it's you, if you are doing a master thesis in the future, it's very, very important, or I feel it's very important, like you should have a simple yet explanatory view of what you are going to, what is your steps going to be, what are your steps going to be. So I studied in the Anhalt University of Applied Sciences, and then I went to Armenia to do the ecosystem services research as a part of my project. And I get to know this Professor Hovik Sayadyan. I will come to it later. So the details are here not important. The important thing, what you need to take away is how you should approach your any design project. So, so these are the steps. I get introduced to the problem, and then I structure it, how I'm going to approach this problem. I'm going to create a link between the two universities, or the universities there with the universities in the Germany. So I get a scholarship, and then I go there, and then I meet the different design professionals. I ask, hey, can you help for me? I have this idea in my mind. Then of course, you need to do field trips. It's very, very dangerous that you just follow books and have a bookish knowledge. It's very, very important. Let it be any side. You need to do a lot of field trips. You need to go there personally. Field trips doesn't mean you go and just stay there. It's boring, of course, I know, but you got to look for what you need in the field trips. So I climbed like 3,000 feet above the earth level. I went to the mountain Ararat, that is where one of the historic and oldest mountains on earth, to study some variety species of plants. So is it worth it? To just for your research needs just one solution, but the process needs so much of a hard work. Is it really worth it? I would say the result is not important. ரொம்ப முக்கியமா என்ன விஷயம் என்னன்னா, what are all the things you are gathering which is 100% genuine from your side. It should be your perspective rather than நீங்க ஒரு விஷயத்தை வந்து ஒரு ஒரு solution. We should not focus on the solution, we should focus on the process. Okay, that's when you could get a culminative approach. Okay, as I before said, where, that is my first question. My project site is in Armenia. Okay, here there is a lot of text. You could see about Armenia better in Google rather than I tell you. Armenia is a very beautiful town, that's I can say. In this emoji, you can see the sad emoji represents the countries which are not in good relationship with Armenia, and the only country which is in good relationships is the Iran. And Armenia has a lot of towns, like similar in India. You have Chennai, you have Mumbai, you have Delhi, Jaipur, Rajasthan, etc., etc. So Armenia have a lot of towns, and this Pikachu tails represents where I have been in Armenia. Okay, you don't need to worry about the text which is on the right side. So this are all the places I went to do a field trip, or whatever I want to study. I studied this region. Okay, for whom? For the people of Armenia. In your case, people, we are doing an architecture project. There will be a client. So whomங்கிற questionல we put the clients inside. Okay. So where, whom, and what is my topic? What I'm going to do. Geodesign, I will have a, if you go back to my first slide, you could see I have mentioned here 3 different type of approaches to get to my solution. First is the ecosystem services approach. Second is the DPSIR model. And third is the scenario. Scenarios is more a kind of a different situation. Enanala solution, all possible solutions. Now we call it a scenario. Okay. We will talk about this different approaches in the next slide, but I hope you are all following me. That's why I'm going very slow. I'm explaining it from the beginning and come back to what we are going through. Okay, now coming back. So this is my topic. இதுவும் very, very important. You cannot go just like that to go place. என்ன செய்ய போறோம்னே தெரியாம what is your topicன்னு நீங்க first முடிவு பண்ணணும். Without knowing what is your topic, you cannot arrive at a solution. So what is my topic is, I am going to generate some scenarios, or what are all the possible solutions and give it to the decision makers, who are the representative of the people. So decision makers நான் இங்க சொல்றது நம்ம ஊர்ல வந்து we have district collectors, we have MLAs, we have MPs. So if we need to get a toilet constructed, public toilet or a bus shelter or an airport or anything, an architect will take his design proposal and go and meet the Highways Authority of India, or he will meet his district collector, or he will meet the concerned MP or whatever. That's how அப்படிதான் அந்த ஒர்க் ஃப்ளோ இருக்கும் இல்லையா? So we, with the UNDP and with the Harvard University, with the Californian University, with the help of them, I generated some scenarios which can help the decision makers. நான் சொன்ன மாதிரி the decision makers can be MLAs or MP or NGOs or whoever it can be, who are the representative of the people who will take it for the next step. Okay, so இதுதான் என்னோட டாபிக். Don't get carried away இந்த இவ்வளோ வேர்ட்ஸ் இதில் இருக்கே அப்படிலாம் வந்து don't think it's so complicated. Actually, it's very, very simple, which I'm going to, we'll go to the next step. Okay, what is your idea? I have here highlighted the keywords in capital or bold. Okay, first, you could see the word identify. So the first question is, you have to identify what is the issue. Okay, in my case, I identified the issues concerning the land degradation in Armenia. Armenia is a developing country with a very low economy. It is not as rich as India. You might have your friends or relatives or colleagues studying medicine in Armenia, so you could ask them. So second, to analyze to the driving forces contributing to land degradation in my research area. First, you identify the problem. Second, you analyze the problem. Third, you have a specific set of methods to approach the problem. Here, the methodology, what I choose is ecosystem services approach. And what is ecosystem services? We will come back to it later, but இப்போதைக்கு you just put this word in your mind. And 4 is estimate. So as I said before, analyze, evaluate, and design. These are going to be the 3 steps. So analyze is in the first 2 points I am analyzing. Third point talks about what is the approach I'm going to take to bring out the potential for my solution. And then fourth is the estimate, what I'm going to estimate, what is going to be my result. The word estimating is a tricky word. It need not be accurate. Okay, va? So when you are talking about, in my case, I studied erosion, soil erosion and land degradation, which is a very serious problem in our landscape, especially due to deforestation, mining, N, X, Y, blah, blah, blah. So many reasons are there for this land degradation. We are going to see later. But in the impact வந்து எப்படி ஒரு குமுலேட்டிவ் நம்பரா நம்மளோட டெசிஷன் மேக்கர் கிட்ட கொடுக்க போறோம். இத்தனை ஹெக்டேர் ஆஃப் லேண்ட் வந்து ஸ்பாயில் ஆயிருக்கு சார் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஹவு ஆர் வி கோயிங் டு எக்ஸ்பிளைன் திஸ் டு அ கலெக்டர் ஆர் எம்எல்ஏ ஆர் எம்பி ஆர் த மினிஸ்டர் ஹூஎவர் இட் மே பி. We can just give them the estimate. We can say, among this 70% of agricultural land, I find out that 60% is degraded. 60% of the land has erosion. இப்படி சொல்லலாம். So it need not be 100% accurate, but they will get a rough estimate. In the estimator, you can transport it or represent it as a pie chart, bar chart, or whatever, gun chart. என்னென்ன மாதிரியான visual methods of communication நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ணி we are going to talk about what is the estimated loss for our country or our region or our land or etc. And the fifth point talks about what is the solution. Okay, ba, இவ்வளோ land வந்து it's been spoiled, it's been degraded. What am I going to do? என்ன பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு and the decision makers ask you, you need to develop the scenarios. Like, sir, these are all the solutions what we as experts think. எது உங்களுக்கு feasible இருக்கோ அதை நீங்க பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு we are going to propose. That is going to be the scenarios. And of course, it's very important that the solutions what we propose should be sustainable. ஏன் sustainable இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னா that is what the future is going to be. Now we are all talking about alternative sources of energy. Now Tesla is coming, will come to India next year or this year, I don't know. So any source of energy now is getting more and more expensive because of the war or political reasons or whatever. So now we are looking for an alternative. So our solution needs to be really sustainable. And Armenians in this kind of a lower economy country, it's very, very important that more people, the community should get somehow involved in the design process. You can involve them as a public participation. At the end of the day, அவங்களுக்கு என்ன அதுல இருந்து கிடைக்க போகுது அப்படின்னா, அந்த people வந்து will ask, ஓகேப்பா நீ இவ்வளோ அனாலிசிஸ் பண்ற, இவ்வளோ ரிசர்ச் பண்ற, எங்க கிட்ட வந்து சொல்ற, இதனால எங்களுக்கு என்ன லாபம், வாட் இஸ் த பெனிஃபிட் ஃபார் மீ அப்படின்னு கேட்டா, இல்லைங்க இந்த மாதிரி இங்க ஒரு பிளான்ட் வந்துச்சுன்னா யூ கேன் ஹேவ் மோர் எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டி, யூ கேன் டெவலப் சம் லோக்கல் மார்க்கெட்ஸ், இங்க வந்து உங்களோட ஆர்ட் ஒர்க்ஸ் சேல் பண்றதுக்கு we will create a space for you, which we are going to see later, but I'm just going to, giving you an introduction. And then land management. Unlike நம்ம ஃபார்மர்ஸ்க்கு வந்து அவங்க ஸ்கையை பார்த்தே சொல்லிடுவாங்க, இப்போ மழை வருமா வராதா, இப்போ என்ன பண்ணலாம் அப்படிங்கிறதெல்லாம் அவங்களுக்கு நல்ல நாலேஜ் இருக்கும். பட் ஈவன் our farmers make some mistake because of the climate change or because of the government policies or whatever. So it's very, very important to educate the local farmers of Armenia, or in your case, any country when you go, or any topic you take, to educate them about the land management. Okay. So இதான் வந்து நான் the entire presentation ஓட gist. Okay. We are going to go into more details. எந்த ஒரு ஊரை நம்ம ஸ்டடி பண்ணாலும், அந்த லேண்ட் டிகிரேடேஷனை ஸ்டடி பண்ணாலும், இட்ஸ் வெரி, வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் தட் யூ ஹாவ் அ அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்டிங் அபவுட் த சாயில் கண்டிஷன். அந்த மண் எப்படி இருக்கு, அந்த மண்ணோடைய தன்மை என்ன, வாட் இஸ் த நேச்சர் ஆஃப் த சாயில், அது எப்படி வந்து இரோட் ஆகுறதுக்கு எவ்வளோ வல்னரபிளா இருக்குங்கிறத நம்ம பார்க்கணும். ஓகேவா? அதை எப்படி பார்க்கலாம்? சிம்பிள் சாயில் மேப். ஸோ தட் இஸ் வாட் இஸ் I used. I studied the soils of different regions in Armenia so that it will be very helpful for me before I visit any region. I get an understanding about what is the soil in that region. How vulnerable is the soil in the region? When you see the right side here, I climbed 4,500 feet with my foot, and with a military truck and my foot, mostly with foot. So I went to this kind of different pasture land and landscapes, which I took as photographs, and I put in the left side, and the right side I put up one of these mountain top. I went with the altitude, so that பார்க்குறவங்களுக்கு we should get a scale. இது எவ்வளோ ஹையா இருக்கு அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கான ஒரு இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் கிடைக்கணும்னு சொல்லிட்டு. ஸோ ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஐ ஸ்டடி த சாயில். ஓகே. செகண்ட், I studied the climate. So I am a foreigner. I am not Armenian. I went to Armenia. In your case, நீங்க எந்த சைட் என்னாலும் எக்ஸாம்பிளுக்கு எடுத்துக்கலாம். So I studied the climate of Armenia. You don't worry about the text. Armenia has very cold winters. I experienced up to minus 23 degrees. So it also has weather. Because Iran is next to Armenia, I showed you in the first map. So I traveled to Iran also by car. So I catched a few snakes on the way, which you could check in my Facebook later. But yeah, so different kind of landscapes are there in Armenia, and different kind of climate regions are also microclimates in the சொல்லுவோம். Microclimates in architecture, we talk about only that site. அந்த சைட்ல அந்த சுத்திமுட்டி அந்த localityல what is the microclimate. Here we are talking about regions. That is the only difference. This map is generated by me. I got the data sets from the Erosion University. So I generated this climate map because according to my convenience. What is this I generated the map means அப்படின்னா simple AutoCAD மாதிரி தான். In GIS, you will have a set of data sets, and you need to follow some methods, same like AutoCAD, but at the end, you will have a map. The result is a map. In CAD, you will get a drawing or a section or a detail or whatever you want to draw. Okay. So, எனக்கு convenience கேத்த மாதிரி, you can get the result in the GIS. Like you want to see the, for example, this arid climate in this so and so color. So you can just do it in GIS and get this color. So I am talking very baby Murray. I want to simplify everything and tell you. Okay. So here in below, I have mentioned the data source as well. and for the students is very, very important. It's okay to copy stuff, but please make sure that you put the data source where you take it. இதனால நான் எதுவுமே உங்களோட ஜென்யூனிட்டி குறைஞ்சு போகவே கிடையாது, குறைஞ்சு போகாது. தட் டசன்ட் மீன் நான் வேற மேஜர் சுந்தராஜன் மாதிரி எல்லாம் டபுளா சொல்றேன். இட்ஸ் ஓகே. ஸோ யூ வில் நாட் நோ வாட் it will make you yourself more valuable, because appodan people will, it will look more reliable because you have collected this data source from so and so person, and just a small hint avladha. So with this information, I go to the next step, is what are all the issues. So as I said, here I need to read the text here, because here the text is very important, especially on the my vision part. It's also, I will also advise you, you should write down what is your vision in this project. So my vision is to evaluate and estimate the impacts of soil erosion, overgrazing, natural resources, poor land management practices throughout the landscape of Armenia, because that's resulting in a land degradation over a period. ஸோ நான் முன்னாடியே சொன்ன மாதிரி இந்த மரத்தை வெட்டுறது, சாயில் இரோஷன், ஓவர் கிரேசிங், இதெல்லாம் வந்து இட்ஸ் கிரியேட்டிங் அ ஹியூஜ் இம்பாக்ட் ஆன் லேண்ட் டிகிரேடேஷன். அதனால என்ன ஆகுது, அவங்களோட ப்ரொடக்டிவிட்டி கம்மி ஆகுது, தே ஆர் கெட்டிங் லெஸ் மணி. ஸோ இதுதான் வந்து என்னோட விஷன், இதான் வந்து நம்ம ஸ்டடி பண்ணணும் அப்படிங்கிறது. ஓகே, ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வாட் இஸ் லேண்ட் டிகிரேடேஷன்? Land degradation is nothing but the reduction or the loss. Why I am using the term reduction is reduction in the quality or reduction in productivity or whatever, or direct loss of biological or economic productivity and complexity of land. Okay, so you don't need to bother about this below text. It's a little bit too much. So it just நமக்கு இவ்வளோ இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் தெரிஞ்சா போதும். ஓகே, before I talk about the drivers, okay, I will talk about the drivers first. I listed down like what are all the, இதுவும் the issues related தான். So here I listed down like what are all the drivers that are contributing to the land degradation. இப்போ ஒரு டிசைன் கேவலமான டிசைன் நம்ம சொல்றோம் அப்படின்னா ஏன் சொல்றோம்? ஏன்னா இங்க வந்து ஸ்டேர் கேஸ் வந்து லொகேஷன் தப்பா இருக்கு, இது வாஸ்து ஃபாலோ பண்ணல, இல்ல இங்க வந்து விண்டோஸ் position சரியில்லை, some parts are so dull, so dark, some parts are so bright, and the kitchen is not proper in terms of ABC, and the fridge, stove, and the workstation எல்லாம் ப்ராப்பரான அலைன்மெண்ட்ல இல்லை, something we will criticize the design, right? So here when we talk about land degradation, I find out what are all the drivers that contribute to the land degradation. As I said already, you don't need to worry about this so many text, but here of course I'm talking about the human influence, the change in livestock composition. For example, more cows versus less sheep. I'm talking about more butterflies versus less bees. So இதுதான் livestock composition or meaning. And lack of environment friendly techniques. They are more and more using the machines rather than the eco-friendly techniques. And I'm talking about desertification. I'm talking about poor social infrastructure. There is a fragments in their social settlement. And I'm talking about poor water supply system, because the cow don't have enough water to drink. It travels from like 1 kilometer from this region to the next region. Because of that, அங்க போய் நிறைய சாப்பிட்றோம், அதோடைய வீட்டுக்கிட்ட இருக்கிற ஃபுட் வந்து அப்படியே சாப்பிடாம இருக்கும். ஏன்னா அதுக்கு தண்ணி இல்லைங்கிறதுனால தண்ணி தேடி அப்படியே அது அங்க போவோம். அங்க போய் பார்த்தா ஆத்துல தண்ணி இருக்காது, ஏன்னா நம்ம ஏதாவது ஒரு ஃபேக்டரியை கட்டி தண்ணியை பிளாக் பண்ணி வச்சிருப்போம் வழியில. ஸோ அதனாலதான் அந்த மாடு அங்க வந்து தண்ணி குடிக்க வருது. அப்போ அங்க வந்து ஓவரா கிரேஸ் பண்ணி விட்டுட்டு போயிருது, அதுக்கு தெரியாது அது இட்ஸ் கமிங் டு பாஸ்டர் லேண்ட். ஸோ அது வந்துடுது. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரியான இஷ்யூஸ் எல்லாம் யூ ஹாவ் டு ஸ்டடி. இட் மே லுக் சில்லி, பட் வென் யூ சி இதனால எவ்வளோ லாஸ் ஆகுது அந்த கண்ட்ரிக்குன்னு அட் த எண்ட் ஆஃப் த இயர், இஃப் யூ சி அண்ட் சி இட்ஸ் a huge amount. So that is why the silly issues is not silly, it's very, very important. So overgrazing, I talked about it, and mining, and what else, everything which they do to destroy the soil. Then what is my steps? இதுல ஒரு டேக்அவே நம்ம ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ்க்கு என்னவா இருக்கும் அப்படின்னா, if you are doing a master thesis or if you are doing anything, what is your steps to go towards your problem? First, Armenia is quite big, so ஒரு ஆளால எல்லா அர்மேனியாவுடைய விஷயத்தையும் ஸ்டடி பண்றதுக்கு மேபி ஐ வில் டேக் 2-3 years. So I have just like 8 to 9 months or maximum, let's say 1 year. So I need to choose a specific study area. கொஞ்சம் மைக்ரோவா போகணும், பிகாஸ் அது பெரிய லார்ஜ் ஸ்கேல்ல இருந்துச்சுன்னா you will start to miss details. The result will look more vague. It won't look more exact, far from accuracy போயிடும். So I need to narrow down myself to a particular region or a particular city. For example, இந்தியாங்கிற ஒரு பிக் கண்ட்ரில if I study about soil loss as a one person with some professor's help is impossible. So what I do is I take Tanjavur or I take Chennai or I take Mumbai as one city, or in that Chennai I take one small region and then I do my study. This will be more easier for me, and this will be like ஒரு பானை சோத்துக்கு ஒரு சோறு பதங்கிற மாதிரி. This I must have in the area வந்து I make sure it has the overall issues I talked about, and your perfect sample எடுத்துட்டு go forward. Okay, second, I identify the appropriate methods. As I said, I use 3 methods here. First is the ecosystem services approach, and second is the DPSIR method, which I'm going to talk about it next. And I used this erosion. You have to have an estimate, right? So I use GIS. I use this method called Russell. I think the professor knows better about it, but I will tell what I did. And then the last one is you generate some scenarios. This is the solution part. So we will go. Okay, this is my case study area. My case study area is called Taush. Taush constitutes to more than 10% of agricultural production from Armenia for the entire country. So in the agricultural production is very intensive, and they had a lot of eroded land. Soil erosion இங்க நிறைய நடந்துச்சு. அப்போ அதர் ரீஜன்லாம் நடக்கலையா அப்படின்னா அங்கேயும் நடக்குது. But for example, I took this region, I analyzed it, and maybe in the future, if I get some funding or if I get some more time, I will go and do similar kind of researches for the other regions. Okay, so here I am going to here I have explained about the Taosh region. I don't think you need to know that much about this region. All you need to know is it is a region in Armenia where the forest has 51%. So they have a lot of forest, and the climate, and I studied about the topography. So it's around 1,200 to 1,500 meter above the MSL. I went up to 1,500 meter. Above that, I didn't go. So this is about this region. It's very rich in flora and fauna. நிறைய forest அங்க நிறைய இருக்கு. Agriculture is happening out there. So this is what you need to know about this case study area. Okay. Okay. நம்ம முன்னாடியே பார்த்த மாதிரி first I study about the soil. Next I study about the climate. Okay, so soil. So when I went to Taosh, in my eyes, என்னால கண்ணில் வந்து இந்த மாதிரியான erosion, what you see here is erosion. Because over a period, there is no ground cover. இங்க வந்து மரம் செடி எல்லாம் எதுவுமே இல்லை. ஸோ இஃப் யூ வாண்ட் டு நோ மோர், ஏன் நமக்கு மரம் ரொம்ப முக்கியம்னு தெரியணும்னா நம்ம நம்மாழ்வார் ஐயாவோட வீடியோஸ்லாம் பாருங்க. அதுல வந்து அவர் சொல்லியிருப்பாரு மரம் வந்து என்ன வாட் கைண்ட் ஆஃப் ரோல் இட் பிளேஸ் டு அவர் என்வாயன்மெண்ட்னு சொல்லியிருப்பாரு. ஸோ யூ குட் கோ அண்ட் வாட்ச் his video. Or Masanobu Fukuoka, there is a Japanese scientist called Masanobu Fukuoka. He is the அவர் வந்து நம்மாழ்வாருக்கு ஒரு தலை மாதிரி, அந்த மாதிரி we can say it. So he followed the ideas of Fukuoka and he simplified that idea and he tell for the people of Tamil Nadu how they could easily understand. So அதுதான் difference. I studied Masanobu Fukuoka. I watched a lot of videos of Nammalwar in YouTube. You could also go and see. So coming back, கொஞ்சம் off topic போயிட்டோம். Coming back, in this region, I could see this so and so place in this. When I was going in car, I got down and I recorded this. Had a serious problem of soil erosion. I went close and I took the picture of this eroded land here, which you can see on top. There I compared it with the image of what is the organic matter, how deep is the surface soil, how much is the subsoil, and how much is the parent rock, and how much is the bedrock. And then I, of course, used maps to see. You could see the legend of the map here. Here, the green one is the forest. Okay, and they have a very little settlements. That means the red color dots along the settlements. So you could see very little buildings there, and the yellow is agricultural land. So basically, this region has only forest and agriculture. Then this image here created a lot of controversy because there were some Russian mafia who are working cutting trees there. I went there to take these photos, and it was quite tense situation. They didn't allow me to take the photos, but I took risk. I took the photos. Yeah, there has been a lot of, like any other country, there has been a lot of illegal logging of trees going on in Armenia, and I recorded it. And here I took the data from the government website, and which is unfortunately not landscape, it's in portrait, but yeah, it's not that relevant. Like how much trees are cut in Armenia and how is deeply increasing and etc. How much is allowed by the government, how much they are doing it illegally. So they say the reduction of forest cover every year is 11% to 8%. So that's serious. Okay, as of I concern, it's serious. Then I talk about, I went and see the overgrazing problem, which is like without the help of software or anything in my field trips, I could see a lot of overgrazing issue happening over there. Armenia has about 3,800 species of plants, which I have a list. I studied a lot of red listed species and I discovered like 572 or odd plants in Armenia. So this has a lot of critically endangered species, like rare plants are there, which these cows are eating, which is not bad, but it is not good for the ecology, I would say. And I talk about the grazing. The main reasons of grazing is the lack of proper pasture management. So in the time they should allow the cows inside the soil, on which time or what period of the year they shouldn't allow. Many of the farmers don't know it or they don't follow it. And the cows have their own route to reach for the drinking areas. I think we talked about this before. I don't need to explain to you. And there is no clear boundaries between two lands. Okay, so these are all the issues I've studied there. Then the first part is done. So here இங்க பாத்தீங்கன்னா first step we successfully finished. I am satisfied with this case study area. So I'm going to go for the next step, which is the analysis part, which is going to be a very important part of our presentation, which is the like a heart of the geodesign. So here I could see, you could see the difference between, for the people understood this kind of a simple visual image very easily. So here you talk about the degraded land, here you talk about the land with ground cover. What is the difference between these two? So then we go inside the method. First, we are going to talk about how to estimate erosion using the Russell method. Again, as I said, you need this software called GIS for this, but it's not a taller issue. You could do it later when you have time. So you need, before you need to start any kind of a GIS problem or GIS design problem, you need to have a proper data sets, and the data sets needs to be within, let's say, last few years or last 5 years, because they don't do survey like every year. These experts from the UN or experts from the university, they go there and they collect the data like once in 5 years or once in 3 years. It depends on every country. So you need to check the genuinity of the data set, who did it, which professor collected it, because you need to mention later in your design projects. Then what is Russell? Russell has this formula. So why it's very good, I would say, is A is the your solution, your area is R times X times LS times C times P. Here there is the acronym or the abbreviation for what K means, what L means, what S is slope, and L is slope length factor. I don't want to bore you by going into too detail about how I came to L, how I achieved K, etc. But of course, we will talk about what are all the maps we need to have a geodesign based approach. I will talk about it, but not now. at this moment, I don't want to go inside too detail about what everything means, but here you could read it. Cover management factor, for example, means how much is the ground cover we have in this region. S is slope steepness factor. S is slope, as it's self-explanatory. You could calculate the slope. That is a factor. After 1.5 is good, 1 is okay, there's something like that. And L is the slope length factor, and K is the soil erodibility factor. Okay, A at the end, this is your result, is the estimated average soil loss. We are going to calculate how many tons per acre or hectare, whatever you feel comfortable. So this is going to be the Russell method. Okay. Using the Russell method, you need to generate the R factor, the K factor. As I said, in the formula, you could say R, K, L, S, C, P. Okay. So the R factor, and you need the K factor and the C and the LS factor, which has different. இது எல்லாமே depends on you, what you want to see அப்படிங்கறத பொறுத்து தான் இருக்கு. So in this R factor, for example, if you see, the soil erodibility factor is very high, which is in red. And the yellow one, if you compare this with the original map, what we see, this red is all forest area, mostly in forest area. This yellow is all in the agricultural land, which is moderate, and blue is okay because some majority of this thing will be red, as we saw before, is the settlement zone. Okay, well, so I'm talking here. What I want to convey is what kind of information you get from a map. Okay, of course the software does it for you, but you have to tell the software what do you want to see, which color you want to see, what you want as your factor, what is your methodology. I don't know how to say what you want to see. அப்படிங்கறத வந்து you have to determine, and you will generate your own map as you wish. You could have it purple, or you could have it green, or whatever you wish, but it's up to you. Entirely it's up to you. So here we talk about the precipitation factor, which is K. As you could ask me how you term this as high or low. I will explain it in another presentation. So you need to generate this kind of series of map. Okay, in your problem, let's say you get a site where you don't have GIS in your hand, you want to do it in some way. We are talking about urban design or architecture or whatever. You will have a different factor. You will do like a wind analysis, you will do a climate analysis, you will do a soil analysis, and you will do a neighborhood analysis. Like that, you will do a lot of analysis. நீங்க வந்து இந்த மேப்ஸ் அந்த மாதிரி அனாலிசிஸா கூட நினைச்சுக்கலாம். So I'm talking about how it can be from a different design professional's view. That's all. So I have here mentioned what are all the data sets I have used. Like the DEM is the digital, the land model, and I use the soil maps. I use the river map. I use the rain data map, which is the precipitation. I need the heights for the slope, so I use the altitudes data, and I use the different kind of land use. So these are all the kind of data sets I used to get these maps. So this is how it needs to be done. இந்த மாதிரியான ஒரு proper kind of protocols follow பண்ணி தான் you have to do any kind of research. Okay. So what is the result I gain from here? I find out that the erosion is very serious in this. As I said, this is the erosion map. The right Russell output you see here this is the erosion map. The green parts are mostly have eroded, or let's say it's very prone to erosion, and the green part here, what you see below, is okay. The erosion is less. So when it's always 0.14 means it's you need to consider it or translate it. It can be quite difficult to understand, but I can say it has a serious case of erosion. So then you need to see, and then the land areas லலாம் erosion அதிகமா இருக்குன்னு சொல்லிட்டு, as I said, this is just like a rough estimate. You cannot say this is 100% accurate data. So then you come to know, okay, in so and so regions, there's the soil loss is high. இந்த land use map compare பண்ணி இந்த greenலாம் எங்க விழுந்திருக்குன்னு அது GIS will tell you. You can have another legend where the GIS can tell you what are all the land use. When you want to see land use, you could have the text instead of numbers. So that is absolutely up to you when you do in the future in GIS or anything. So how many tons per hectare is per year is getting eroded from this region? I have not calculated. I just have the map because for me here the number is not important. For me here the level of impact is more important. So next, I'm going to the second approach, which I said it is ecosystem services approach. Ecosystem services approach is a very, very interesting approach. என்ன அப்படின்னா, our ecosystem is nothing but our surrounding. Okay, you go to a site, you take a photo. There you could see the site as such without any human intervention. It's providing you a lot of services. You can call it as regulating services, you can call it as provisioning services or supporting services. Provision means it's similar like a provisional store. You need food, water, and house to survive. So here I talk about regulating services means it's about the local climate and air quality or the carbon sequestration, the wastewater treatment, erosion prevention or soil fertility, biological services, water flow. See, you don't need to go through what are all the criteria I mentioned below. It can be different for different projects. But what I want to say here is any ecosystem will provide this regulating services, provisional services, supporting services, and they have many more like spiritual services. You could feel very spiritual in a space. Let it be a park. You go to a park and then you see what are all the things I get from this park. I feel relaxed. You will say I get fresh air. You will say எனக்கு அங்க போனா ஒரு பீஸ்ஃபுல்லா ஃபீல் ஆகுது அப்படின்னு you will say. So it can go on and on and on. You need to structurize or you need to put it in a terms, technical terms, like these are all my provisional service, these are all my regulating service, and these are all my supporting service. Okay, you will understand it better in this picture. What are all provisional services, what are all regulating services, and what are all cultural services? Any landscape will provide this three services. You can provide less or more. You could represent it as a chart or ranking, or you could give them a score, how much provisional services in the landscape so you can do it. So in my case, I need these three services. So I take a simple photograph of a landscape in this region in Kavush, it's the region in Armenia, as I said. So I try to put a pin on every kind of service I get from this landscape or this picture. So I see they have a group of trees. They help to get a good rainfall for this land. I see they provide us good fruits and flowers. I see this is the main source of food for the human because the fruits, pear, apricot are all very good in Armenia. So I talk about that. And it's very critical for the ecological balance. And these trees, very importantly, protect the soil from the erosion. And I talk about it's a home for various birds. So இது இந்த ஒரு போட்டோல இருந்து நமக்கு என்னென்னலாம் நேச்சர் ப்ரொவைட் பண்ணுதுங்கிறத ஐ ஜஸ்ட் லிஸ்டட் அவுட். இது இட்ஸ் நோ பிக் டீல், இது ரொம்ப சிம்பிள் தானே அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு யூ குட் சி, யூ குட் திங்க், பட் இட்ஸ் வெரி வெரி கிரிட்டிக்கல் வென் யூ need to understand a region or when you need to touch a landscape, when you want to do any intervention, before you do it, you need to do a proper thing. இதெல்லாம் எனக்கு கிடைக்குது, இப்போ நான் இந்த டிசைன் பண்றதுனால இதை இன்னும் நிறைய ஆகுதா இந்த சர்வீஸ்லாம், இல்லை இன்னும் கம்மி ஆகுதா? இப்போ நான் இங்க வந்து ஒரு பில்டிங் அ பிக் ஸ்கூல், ஆக்சுவலி இந்த பிக்சருக்கு கீழே ஒரு ஸ்கூல் இருக்கு, which I used it to put my points. Okay, so I am building a school. இந்த ஸ்கூலால இந்த நேச்சர்ல எனக்கு கிடைக்கிற சர்வீசஸ் எங்கேயாச்சும் குறையுதா, இல்ல இஸ் தேர் அன் இன்க்ரீஸ் அப்படிங்கிறது as an architect, as a design professional, is very very important to understand before you start any intervention. நீங்க டைரக்டா it can't just go and say I will cut down all the trees, I will build a resort here. The resort is for the people, they can enjoy, but அதனால நமக்கு என்ன நேச்சருக்கு திரும்ப கிடைக்குது, what are we losing, we can estimate. Okay, so we are going to the next method, like the DPSIR method. Again, as I said, I am not getting any maps or any kind of chart from here. I have a reason for it. இதை நான் வந்து ஒரு சுருக்கி ஒரு மேப்பா காட்டலாம் இல்ல ஒரு சார்ட்டா காட்டலாம் இல்ல I can show it in any way, but I am not doing it. I will tell you why next. So I am using another method called DPSIR method, where D stands for drivers, which is nothing but the human needs, and P stands for pressures. What kind of pressure you get from this government or from the Russian mafia, or for example, and or what kind of pressure you have to execute this project. The people are not cooperating with you, etc., etc. State is the ecosystem. What kind of state is there? And impact is the services. So again, these are the methodologies which Professor Steinitz created, and he gave it to me. Like I could use this methodology to analyze here. So I listed down like here you could see drivers are needs. What are the needs of the people? Their economy needs and the forest soil எந்த அளவு we are talking about ecology அப்படிங்கறத கூட இன்னும் ரொம்ப முக்கியம். எந்த அளவுக்கு we are talking about the economy, because வெறும் ecology வச்சு we can't just have a we need a Levi's pant, we need a what you call a shirt, good branded shirt, you need a watch, Apple phone, etc., etc. So you need money to buy all these things. You cannot just make the fire out of the stones and live in a forest. You need, the people need to know ஏன் இதை நான் பண்ணணும், இதனால எனக்கு என்ன பெனிஃபிட் இருக்கு அப்படின்றது தெரிஞ்சாதான் the people பண்ணுவாங்க. ஓகேவா? So these are all the drivers, and I divided the drivers into two: ecological and macroeconomic. The image is self-explanatory. You can go through it. And then I am talking here about the pressure, which is the D is over. I'm coming to P. So pressure, I am talking about the illegal logging of trees, overgrazing, mining, pollution, topsoil loss, and Armenia has a lot of earthquakes. So these are all the pressures what I could understand from this site. So in your case, if you're approaching a site, you would have your own set of problems. You could list down in this kind of way. So next, we are talking about the S, which is the states. I here see it as two states, which is physical or biological state and the land use state. So again, land, air, water, climate, land use are very important. So I went to a different regions and to understand better about the climate and etc. So here you could see what are all the locations I went. I used a map called Map It. Maybe you could also use it when you make your field trips. And then I go to the impact. What will it impact? It will impact the soil quality. They will impact the water quality, air quality, climate. Of course, if you destroy any land, you will have these impacts. And below you have a lake ecosystem. Armenia have a lake called Lake Sevan, which is another problem which we will talk in another presentation probably. And the forest land, grassland, pasture land, meadows, agriculture, and land settlements will also get impacted. What will it result? It will result in landscape quality, environmental impacts, food security, tourism, etc. So when will this impact come? So நம்ம போய் இப்ப கொடுத்தோம்னா leader or a party member or a MLA will have his அவங்களுக்கு 5 வருஷம் தான் டைம் இருக்கும். ஓகேவா? அந்த 5 வருஷத்துல we can't say they can solve out all the problems because they have other issues to focus. We are not talking here about corruption or anything. We are just talking purely facts. So they would say, why I need to do it? I just have this and this things already in my mind from the previous ruler. These things have not been done. I need to focus on that. Sorry, I can't do this now. So we need to tell the ministers or the decision makers, hello, you have this so and so time. You can do it in the next 5 years, or maybe you can do it for the future after 10 years or next 20 years. When you need to act, it depends on the impact. Then it will be very helpful for the decision makers to derive a lot of policies like environmental policies, touristic policies, policies of food production. These are all the measures they will take. So this I see as a result from this DPSIR method. Okay, now we come to the main part. So now we have all studied everything like the soil loss, land degradation. Armenia has unemployment, population or shrinking population, and you have the analysis from the two methods. So now we are going to generate the scenario, which is two. One is ecological scenario, which is good for the environment. Two is the macroeconomic, which can help the people to develop their economy. So as the pictogram வந்து எவ்வளவு சிம்பிளா பண்ண முடியுமோ அவ்வளவு சிம்பிளா பண்ணேன் to understand better. So as a designer, for me, I feel more than the data or the GIS map, I need to have a different kind of solutions which I can give to the decision makers. So first, scenario. Nama scenario is nothing but possible solutions. Okay, wow. So first is ecological and macroeconomic. This is what I want to generate. In the top, I have put the present situation, what is out there, and below, I put the first scenario where you want more forest cover, and you want to stop logging. Okay, what will it increase? It will increase the more bees, it will provide home for more birds, and it will give you more wood for the fire. Scenario two, you want to increase the pasture land, which is nothing but the pasture land is the land where the cow go for grazing. Okay, so I say nadula we can have a small water catchments, or we can have a column or a small water well where the cows can drink the water. Okay, இதுல நமக்கு என்ன கிடைக்கும் அப்படின்னா the cows will avoid going to more regions. They can drink water in nearby areas. So we can have the small lakes which can also have good impact on the environment. And scenario three, ஃபாரஸ்ட்லாம் ரொம்ப கம்மியா இருக்கு. We will increase the forest cover, but அந்த ஃபாரஸ்ட்க்கு நடுவுல grazing areas கொடுப்போம், so that the cows in summer also can come there and graze in the shade. கம்ஃபர்டபுளா அவங்க சாப்பிடலாம் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி we thought. And then here the problem what I have is the illegally logged forest zones. So I'm proposing the government, you have to stop this logging of trees somehow and increase the forest cover and provide this grazing area in between this forest land. What it will get, it will have more milk, more good productivity, and you could have a farmer's local market where the farmers will sell their eggs or meat or whatever. So here, நான் முன்னாடியே இந்த சினாரியோஸ்லாம் ஜஸ்ட் பிரீஃபா எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணிட்டேன். பட் ஹியர் ஐ எம் டிஃப்ரெண்ட் சொல்யூஷன்ஸ்ல என்னென்ன ப்ளஸ் இருக்கு மைனஸ் இருக்குங்கிறத வந்து எக்ஸ்பிளைனிங் ஹியர். ஸோ ஆஸ் ஐ செட், த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் சினாரியோ இஸ் இன்க்ரீசிங் த ஃபாரஸ்ட் கவர், and the result is that we can get the degradation of forest landscape, because of course you are planting more trees, and you can avoid landslides, you can reduce the CO2 absorption, and the outcomes is you are improving the forest cover, means you get fresh air, you have timber needs, and you have more fire and electricity. You can go through this picture where I just expressed it as a diagram. In the text தான் அங்க diagram இருக்கு. Okay, so now we go to the second scenario where I will talk here about the image rather than the text. So here is the scenario. Here you இங்க என்ன focus பண்றீங்கன்னா, you want to increase the pasture lands. So what are all the benefits you get ecologically? What are all the benefits you get economically? Ecologically, you will get more good milk, you will get more meat, you will get a good livestock composition, you can have planned grazing. What you will get as economy? You will have quality milks mean more money, and quality meat means you will have an opportunity to export it more. So இதுதான் வந்து suppose scenario 2. Now we go inside the map of the scenario 2, where you talk about increasing the pasture land cover to facilitate the grazing. So here you say cows need more pasture land, so that will ensure more milk, that will include the quality of meat, which in turn increases the revenue of the local community by taking these products to the market. So இதுதான் basically, you go, you make a field trip, you do analysis, and you propose a design, and that design needs the help of a lot of experts. You need the help of the UN, you need the help of the professors, etc. Then you are arriving at the solution for the people. அதுதான் geo design basically. Okay, so now we are talking about the scenario 3, where you want to focus on the depletion in forests. You are talking about providing these pastures in these forest areas. So the ecological advantage is you will get more grazing zone, more milk, more meat. Don't worry about the repetition because ஒரு சொல்யூஷன்ல இருக்கிறது இன்னொரு சொல்யூஷன்ல ரிப்பீட் ஆகக்கூடாதுன்னு ஒண்ணுமே கிடையாது. You could repeat the same set of solution. It's natural. Okay. So the microeconomy is they'll have more local markets, more meat for export. I'm sorry. So this is the aim for me in this third scenario. And then I have a map for it. You increase the forest cover and you provide this grazing area in between these forest packets. Um, so this will create a good link for the local products. Like if the farmer comes here to collect the honey, he can also take care of his cow or keep an eye on his cow or whatever. So that's how what we are aiming. So you create for the decision makers, you don't need V-Ray rendering or Lumion rendering or whatever. For them, simple Photoshop image or a simple hand sketch is fine. So I'm telling to them, I went and meet the minister for agriculture, and then I told him, so here, this pasture land, which is looking sad in the future, should look like this below. Well, should have more trees. That's what we are talking about. We need more water for the cows to graze. Cows can stay here. So when the water comes, then this entire situation of this land will change. And when the trees come, your erosion problem can be solved out. So that's the result. And in back of the result, we have a lot of steps. And then you tell, like நான் இங்க வந்து என்ன யூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கேன்னா, I just use these tales to say we can put the local markets in between a community of maximum 500 meter. You can have one market, or 1 kilometer. You can have one market where the farmers could come and put their shops and sell for this community. For example, in the shops வந்து இங்க இருக்கிறவங்களாம் வந்து இங்க வாங்குவாங்க. Can have a shop here where these people will come and buy here. Can have a shop there where these people will go here, so that they don't need to use so much of a car or any kind of external energy to travel to one market and buy everything and come back. It avoids monopoly and everything. So again, I presented it to the UN. I came in the newspaper, etc., etc. So here, that's how this thing works. I, from the university, collaborated with this NGO, with this University of Armenia, with my University of Architecture and Construction. Of course, I could also, in another situation, I could talk about the vernacular architecture in Armenia. அதுல டேக் அவே என்னவா இருக்கும்னா, வெர்னாகுலர் ஆர்கிடெக்சர் இன் அர்மேனியாவை பத்தி தெரிஞ்சுட்டு நமக்கு ஒன்றும் ஆக போறது இல்லை அப்படிங்கிறத விட, யூ கேன் ஃபைண்ட் அவுட் வாட் கைண்ட் ஆஃப் மெத்தட்ஸ் these people who are in Germany or who are in US using to approach a problem. That is what is the takeaway of this entire sharing of ideas. Okay, so this is how I did it, and yeah, that's the end of the presentation. Yeah, I always love beginnings. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Asif. It's a nice beginning for all of us here at MIDAS. Definitely, it's a good beginning. So even I love beginning. We started beginning.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. That is how I began my studies that time with Carl on geodesign in 2019 during COVID times. So, and this, especially the way you explained your thesis of this master's, especially on looking at the land and its resources, how best geodesign can give us the informed decisions to help the people, the stakeholders, what they want and how it can be made it possible. It's a very wonderful presentation, and thanks for the bilingual narration that you gave. It was a very simple bilingual narration, which definitely has a great impact in our students today. Whether you believe it or not, it is there. The impact is great when you have bilingual presentation. So that way, thanks to you once again from my side as a head, and also a part of the geodesign team, which I'm also still as a member. Really, I'm happy to have you and listen to you on this your traverse of this thesis at Bahos. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Pleasure is mine.
Thank you, sir. It was an enlightening section. Now, it's time for us to move on to question and answer section. I request
Mhm.
all the participants to use the raise and hand option, which is available at the bottom of your screen. I'll call out your name. At that time, you can unmute yourself and you can question to the presenter, or you can post it in the chat box.
I hope no one is sleeping.
No, sir.
I hope so, because it's very boring to talk at one presentation about everything. Anyway,
No, sir. It's
yeah, I will be happy to answer anything like how you went to Armenia or what you do in Germany, anything. You could go ahead and ask me. Yeah.
if anyone is having any questions, you can please ask. Or else you can post it in the chat box too.
I just have not a question. Just want Asif to just give
Mm-hmm.
some insight because see when we work on the process of geodesign, how simple or how user friendly that software is all about, and how best we can bring out the results scientifically. What we understand once we work on it.
Mm-hmm.
But just you can tell the students how they can start looking at these kind of softwares which are all emerging in making those designs possible in a scientific manner. If you can throw some light on it, it will be fantastic.
Yes, sir, it's very good. Can you all see the my window now? What I'm sharing? You could don't need to see the WhatsApp. You could see the thing. What I'm. Can someone confirm that you could see what I'm showing to you?
No, sir, it's not visible.
Okay, moment. I will do something. It's just a small share of sharing. I want to share something. Yeah. So screen. Yeah. Now you could see.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. As the professor or the sir asked me, I would to start up with. There is something called story maps in ArcGIS. So here you could see. You could go to ArcGIS story maps. You could just Google. Maybe for one analysis presentation or one, I don't know, for your village study or whatever, the start would be before you go inside the GIS and start working with data sets, you could go to this story maps and try to create your own presentation instead of a PowerPoint. So it's what all the normally the people will use PowerPoint, which I say is not bad, but you could use something kind of this story map is available in the ESRI website. What it will do is here you can use this real-time map, like you can navigate it in person. You could explore it. I don't want to be a brand ambassador of ArcGIS e-story map, but you could get a real-time interactive map on your right side. You just need to enter the location and you could do everything in your PPT and still enter it in your story maps and try to create you could use pictures, you could enter charts and whatnot. You could do anything with the story map. So this would be a good start. And once you go inside, once you start liking the story map, then you could go inside the GIS part, which is very, very expensive software for any university or any kind of organization to afford it at the beginning. But you could learn, download a trial version and try to solve you could look some YouTube and try to solve the basic. There are some free data sets I mean, we use torrent to download movies, but why not we search for these data sets in torrent or in Google or whatever, and try to obtain the sample data sets and start working in this trial version of this GIS, and then try to generate maps. I mean, it entirely depends on the interest of different people. Some may like GIS, some may not, which is absolutely okay. But to start up, you could use story maps to use your as a starting step to present your village study or with present your site analysis or anything, and then you could download the GIS things and download the data sets, some baby data sets from torrent or anything, and start trying. Trying is the first step. Yeah.
Thank you, Asif. Nice.
Yeah.
That story map. Register and for to start the story map, I just like to give the students some insight. First, register yourself with the ESRI, that's what I was asking you in the beginning. Yesterday, I was telling
Hmm.
I just want everyone to become a member of that. Once they become a member of ESRI, they will be in a position to do that story map in a nice manner. They can do the login and give their email ID and passcode. They'll be in a position to do that. And as rightly you was telling, the story map can be done for various places of your interest. You just start like that only doing it, and definitely you can try out the using those informations into the software, and you can try it out. So that you working on that will be wonderful. Actually, you need to enroll yourself with that. That is what I would like to highlight here. Once they do the enrollment, then things will start happening. And I have done some
Yeah.
story maps, very interesting story
Hmm.
maps for this region. You
Hmm.
can browse my name and you can see.
Okay, so I will see.
You can text my name and see.
Hmm.
You can see the lovely story maps what I created.
Okay, I will see.
Doing using ESRI. Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to say some quick thing before we end up the session. So I hope இதுல நிறைய விஷயம் வந்து need not be fully understood, but
Yes.
I'm very glad that at least a few people were a part of this presentation, because it's just a start. So உங்களுக்கு இதுல நிறைய விஷயம் you can know, you like it, some things you may not like it, some things you may feel boring, but it doesn't matter. It's good that you all came here first. That is the first step. You take what you like and go forward. It's all very simple. Yeah.
And it's true. It's just a
Yeah.
beginning. It's a nice beginning. As you rightly said, I love beginning. Here, going to ESRI itself is a good beginning actually. Such information is
Yeah.
available. And when they listen to the conferences which they conduct regularly, very inspiring ones actually. But the way they approach, where they talk about the data sets, the way they talk about the mapping, it's a very interesting venture. I think everyone, being a young architect who's bubbling with a lot of ideas, who wants to contribute, should be a master in all this. So that's what is required today. And definitely, as if your presentation today has opened up that avenue for
Yeah.
the minds.
Hope so.
Once they go into ESRI and they do the story map, they will know what is that you're talking about, how wonderful it can be. So thank you once again, and it's a nice meeting and all on everybody on this platform, and especially Asif towards this informative geo design. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much for answering our questions. Now, I request our Associate Professor Siddhartha to deliver overtimes.
Hello, am I audible? A very good evening to all. It has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful event. On behalf of Marg Institute of Design and Architecture Swarnabhumi, it gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for this webinar to all dignitaries present here. I would like to thank our chief guest, Architect Asif Ali Riazuddin, who honored this webinar with his valuable thoughts. The design approach in addressing a problem is very informative, and the effort taken to get appropriate data from case studies is very inspiring. I am sure students take this inspiration to boost up their design quality. I would like to thank our beloved principal, Professor Pasutarajan, for being a constant source of motivation, always supporting us and guiding us. I would like to thank our head of the department, Professor Jayaraman, for being the catalyst that inspired us to do our best. I would like to thank Assistant Professor Hemalata, Assistant Professor Inia, Ms. Ashmi for organizing the event. I would like to thank our academic coordinator, Mr. Meenakshi Sundaram, our IT team, Mr. Franklin, for their technical support. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our faculty members, students, and participants for attending this webinar and making it a grand success.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Siddharth, for the nice words. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. I request all the participants to kindly fill up the feedback form. Thank you again for joining us today, and we will see you in the next webinar section. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashmi. Nicely done. Well done.
Thank you,
Bye.
Ashmi. Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you all. Thank you, Emma.